Welcome to the Explainer. So today, we're diving into this absolutely wild, high-stakes collision between global trade wars, municipal waste, and, believe it or not, cutting-edge AI. We're tracking a massive story that starts with macroeconomic tariff policies down in Washington, cascades into a looming 3.46 million ton landfill crisis between Ontario and Michigan, and ends with an incredibly high-tech AI solution built to literally save the supply chain. Let's jump right in. Here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the cross-border tariff war. Then, we'll dive into Ontario's looming waste crisis. And finally, we'll explore how they're building what's known as the Sentient Bridge. All right, part one, the cross-border tariff war. So what actually happens to your trash when a trade war closes the border? It's really easy to think of international tariffs as just these abstract numbers debated by politicians. But these policies, they have a direct physical impact on the everyday reality of garbage trucks, supply chains, and municipal solid waste disposal. Let's look at the timeline here. In February 2025, Washington, under Donald Trump, initiated a wave of 25% universal tariffs on Canadian imports. Fast forward to February 2026, and the U.S. Supreme Court strikes down the use of the IEEPA for those tariffs. But, well, the relief was pretty short-lived. By July 2026, the U.S. officially shifted the USMCA, which is known as SUSMA up in Canada, to a highly volatile annual review track. Suddenly, literally every single commodity crossing that border is facing massive regulatory uncertainty. Which brings us to part two, Ontario's looming waste crisis. 3.46 million tons. That is the staggering volume of municipal solid waste, or MSW, that gets exported and shipped across the border to U.S. Michigan landfills from Ontario, Canada, every single year. To put that massive number into perspective, Ontario's exported trash accounts for exactly 14.35% of all the waste disposed of in Michigan landfills. You see, Ontario is incredibly reliant on U.S. disposal capacity. Because the province just lacks the domestic landfill space for its own waste generation, there's this constant heavy flow of tonnage heading south year after year. So any border friction, like say those pending cross-border tariffs we just talked about, is absolutely catastrophic. We were talking about a massive backlog of trash with literally nowhere to go. And this isn't just a theoretical problem. Premier Doug Ford highlighted this exact vulnerability perfectly. He said, "Just imagine if, tomorrow, President Trump says we aren't taking any more of Ontario's waste, what do we do?" It's a really stark acknowledgement of the panic happening at the provincial level. The threat of U.S. tariffs hitting the waste sector isn't just some abstract economic issue, it is an imminent public works crisis for Ontario. But wait, the pressure isn't just coming from Washington. There's intense pushback from the state level, too. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer actually proposed an aggressive budget hike that would rocket the current Michigan tipping fee of just 36 cents per ton all the way up to $5 per ton. The goal here is to explicitly deter out-of-state waste, which puts this massive financial squeeze right on the Ontario-Michigan waste corridor. Facing this dual threat, Ontario's reaction was, well, swift and a bit chaotic. The provincial government pushed through Bill 5, which is legislation designed to fast-track domestic landfill capacity, specifically targeting the Dresden landfill expansion. To pull this off, the bill controversially removed the usual environmental assessment requirements. But that move instantly ignited severe legal pushback. The Walpole Island First Nation, alongside other Indigenous leaders, actually filed a constitutional challenge against the bill. So what started as an international trade dispute has now cascaded into a very localized legal and environmental battleground. Which begs the question, how does an industry even survive this perfect storm of tariffs, crackdowns, and legal gridlock? That brings us to part three, building the Sentient Bridge. Let's look at the pure economics driving some really cool innovation here, which is rooted in the provincial CIRCI Levy framework. If a transport load, what they call a 19.15-ton mothership, is classified as mixed waste, it gets hit with a massive penalty of $60 per ton. That brings the cost to almost $1,200 per load. But if it's verified as clean wood, the levy drops to just $5 a ton, costing under $100 total. This staggering financial penalty makes mixed waste completely unviable, but it also creates a massive incentive. If you can definitively prove your waste is clean right at the source, you save over $1,000 on every single truckload. Enter the 905 Wood Digital Refinery. This setup acts as what they call the sentient bridge between chaotic construction waste and the strict, high-purity requirements of the biocarbon market. By capturing this massive price spread, 905 Wood secures Ontario's industrial leadership in the global circular bioeconomy. They are literally turning a logistics nightmare into a highly profitable operation. So here is how their 95 Wood digital refinery workflow actually operates in the real world. Step 1. They have operationalized a Google Pixel 10 Pro running the Android 16 Lite RT AI stack right at the facility gate. Step 2. As materials enter, that Edge AI performs real-time visual classification, ensuring that only clean wood gets through. And step 3, the hardware itself generates an attested, cryptographically secure proof of origin for ultimate verification and compliance. I mean, they have literally turned a consumer smartphone into an industrial-grade compliance gate. How cool is that? Grounding this cutting-edge tech into tangible business tools, the digital refinery application workflow starts with an AI-driven structured request for quote, or RFQ. It provides explainable compliance using an AlloDB RAG framework to basically map physical waste to really complex legal statutes. Crucially, it generates the exact 9-point certificate of origin that's required for those volatile USMCA annual reviews we mentioned earlier, alongside UI/UX automated PDF documentation output features and Net30 billing. It perfectly translates Edge AI classification directly into border-ready paperwork. Which leaves us with this final provocative thought to consider. Are AI-verified supply chains the only way to survive the future of global trade protectionism? When macroeconomic tariffs from Washington collide with localized landfill crises, the businesses that survive aren't just going to be the ones moving materials. They'll be the ones moving irrefutable AI-verified data. Technologies like the Sentient Bridge might soon shift from being just a competitive advantage to an absolute mandatory requirement for all international logistics. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it gave you a crystal clear understanding of this massive logistical puzzle.